Hi everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, and this is Matt
Yep.
and Alan.
Stuck here.
What's up, MFers?
These guys are going to talk about Game of Thrones, and since they had to miss last week, they'll be talking about both Season 6, Episode 3, it's called Oathbreaker, and Season 4, sorry, Season 6 still, but Episode 4, Book of the Stranger, and full spoilers for both of those episodes, as always on the show. Guys, take it away.
Real quick, Peter's never sounded more like a Highlander than when he said Oathbreaker. Just want to point that out.
That's
Sorry,
very
Matt.
true.
More where that came from.
Yeah.
I'm going to get into my Tetris, you guys. On you go.
Yep.
Okay, so this past episode was really good, but we're going to get to that in a moment, but we want to go over
Mhm.
episode 3 first.
Yep.
And so basically in episode 3, of course, Jon Snow is like the big deal in all these episodes because
hmm
he's kind of become like the main character of the show, really. He's kind of like the hero.
Yep.
Um, and in episode 3, what ends up happening is that he has to basically execute the ringleaders of the people who had him assassinated,
Yep.
which ends up having Ollie in the mix, and
The,
that was like
the,
really, really hard
the
to watch.
glare of death, man. That kid was trying to kill him with sight.
Yeah,
Again, it's like stabbing him in the heart didn't work, so I'm gonna try it with my eyes.
and what's worse is that like he's dead and he's still staring at him, and it
Yep.
shows you stare, and it shows the audience like how their eyes are still open and
Yeah.
everything. And of course, after that happens, John is like, "I'm done," and he ends up leaving the Night's Watch.
Turns in his
Which
coat like a bamf.
Yeah, and he puts Ed in charge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who is like the guy who was like who ends up becoming sort of like his
This
second
is
in
ride or
command, I
die.
guess.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
his bad boys. Like I want to see a Game of Thrones version of those two riding around.
that'd be
You
pretty
know?
good. I'd like that too. Maybe they can
Yeah.
make some jokes about the KKK
Yeah.
from over there. Um, of course, too, we also have the Tower of Joy, which is where Bran is time traveling. I guess is what he's doing.
Yeah, through it will time sightseeing, like because he's not really there, but like the Blood Raven has been able to, or the Three Eyed Raven has been able to like have him peer into the past. So and he
It's
gets
kind of
to
weird though because like it kind of hinted that he might be able to be there, because he ends up calling out to his dad,
mm-hmm.
and his dad turns around thinking that he heard him, and so it's really interesting. So maybe they're kind of like ghosts in a way.
Yeah.
Um,
The
it's
big takeaway from that scene too was like so everyone knows the story of the Tower of Joy, how Ned, charged in and to save his sister from
mm,
Rhaegar, and that he had fought Sir Arthur Dayne, who was like a member of the Kingsguard. I don't know if he was the leader of the Kingsguard, but he was like their go to guy. And as he watches it play out, it's not how the story's been told.
yeah,
Ned has Howland Reed, whose daughter is up there, Mira Reed, with Bran. Comes up and stabs Dane right in the back,
yeah,
allowing Ned to get the kill. So that was kind of like a reminder of everyone knows these stories, but they're just that,
yeah, yeah.
it's just stories. So
I also like
it's
how it makes Ned's character more gray in a
mhm.
way because like he didn't do this the honorable way. He ended up
Yeah.
winning just on
Oh,
this, and he ends up lying to everyone about it too.
well, it was also that's basically what ended the war because Rhaegar. He's already said Rhaegar's been killed by Robert, and this was the last stand, and he was going to save his sister. So I can kind of see him, not being so honorable to end the war,
Yeah,
but not fessing up to it is a main part of the story. So I think there's going to be more revealed because as Bran wanted to go into the tower,
hmm,
the Three Eyed Raven pulled him away and says, if you
yeah.
spend too much time here, bad things will happen. So
Well, we also know what happens to his aunt too,
yeah,
because yeah, and, he probably just didn't want him to see that.
that too.
So, um, And I like to think that, because this guy is supposed to be ancient. He's supposed to be like
Yeah.
thousands of years old.
Mhm.
So it's good to see that he still has humanity left in him, in regards to this kid.
Right.
Um, I guess moving on from there, we should talk about Arya a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, this was really cool. I like seeing her arc in becoming this assassin or whatever she's going
Yeah.
to be. Um, and like you mentioned before we started recording, she's basically
Yep.
become Daredevil now.
Yep.
It's really really cool because she knows how to like sense person without seeing them and everything,
Mhm.
and she finally completes her training and she's told to take a drink from that fountain that we saw whenever she first went in there of the guy
The
dying.
nasty water.
Yeah.
Like that's a trial of faith all by itself.
Yeah, exactly. It reminded me of in I think it was the last good Indiana Jones movie where he has to step across
Yeah.
onto the invisible walkway.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of that in a way. I don't know if maybe if it's because of like the catacomb looking area,
Yeah.
but it really reminded me of that, and I thought that was really cool. But it is good to see that she has her sight again, and now she's like completed it, and I want to see what her next step is going to be.
Well, yeah. Now she is officially no one. That's what
Yeah,
got her eyesight back. So we'll see if she starts changing faces, and she still has her list.
yeah, yeah.
So I don't know if she'll be able to act on that because that's what got her eyesight taken in the first place. But
Hmm.
you know, it's pretty
Yeah,
cool though.
it is cool. Yeah. Let's see. Moving on from there, we've also got Daenerys, who's continuing on, and I guess it's called Vas
Yeah,
Dothrak.
Vice Dostoyak.
Yeah, I've never learned that language, so it doesn't matter.
Well, it's gonna have to. It's like Klingon on steroids.
It
So
is. It's really strange.
yeah.
She's, I guess, conversing more with the other women that are there,
Mhm.
um, and she's kind of like learning about the society from their perspective and like seeing other things. And it's cool seeing that because she it's like she doesn't have as much power as she thought she had
Right.
over there. Um, and then of course it totally turns around in the next episode, which I guess is a good time to
Yeah.
go ahead and go over to the next episode. That I did not see this coming, and I'm glad that it happened because it feels like episode four like really stepped forward in
Yeah.
terms of
It
timeline.
not just step. It did like a full Olympic long jump
Yes.
for these stories. Like but yeah, go on. Let's talk about Daenerys's barbecue.
um, one of the great things about that's come out of this is all the Bernie Sanders feel the burn like
Yeah.
memes and stuff. I love seeing that. Uh,
Uh,
yeah. So basically, she finally gets called in front of the call, and
yeah.
he's like going to judge her, and then she just starts talking shit at him. And there's these, and I guess she's in like arena. I'm not sure what that stage is in front of them.
So I had taken it that was their main temple that everything's built around because
Yeah.
that's at the center of the city, and the
Right.
city's kind of like almost like a tent city. Nothing's really permanent there because
Okay.
they're nomadic as it is. So like this is their one structure that they
Yeah.
built, you know. So yeah, so they're all surrounding her, and there's what are they called, braziers, just
Yeah.
things filled with fire to light up the room.
She just sets her hand on there really calmly. She's like smiling at them, and then she just burns everyone in the fucking
Like
place.
they were talking mad shit too about
Yeah.
she needs to earn her place, and just because she was with Khal Drogo and she couldn't see a sorceress in her midst and all this, and it's hilarious because what they were accusing her of is
Hmm.
what she did to them.
I love it. It's so
Yeah.
good. It,
And because her nickname is the Unburnt, she showed them how unburnt.
yep.
Um,
And then you see all the people coming
yeah,
out of their tents and everything around them, and they just kneel in front of her.
Yeah.
Um, also, Jorah is there, and so is Dario. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Daria Naharis.
Dario Naharis. And what was great is like you get to see them kind of like come up onto the city, and then they're
Yeah.
like putting their swords away and everything. And then he's got
Well,
this
because
one.
that's the main thing in Vice Dothrak is there's no weapons. Like every Dothraki has to turn in every weapon. It's like a mortal sin for you to be even caught with one. Um, and so you see them dropping all of their knives, and uh, Dario has this one special knife that he can't seem to part with.
This guy is the hilt is basically this woman, this naked
Yeah,
woman, and he like kisses it on the ass
yeah,
part where it is, and he's like, and then he's gonna go to hand it to Jorah, but
mhm,
then he sees the grayscale on
yeah,
his armor. Um, and I thought what was interesting is that Jorah was like, "Don't worry, I didn't touch you. You
right.
know, you're not gonna
You're
get hurt."
fine. Yeah,
And then Dario was like, "I'll take care of my own stuff from now
yeah,
on."
yeah.
Uh,
And he does because they jump two of the main calls, the one that's been dealing with Daenerys, two of his dudes, and the knife comes back into play,
yeah.
and Jorah's like, well, if they find a knife wound, they're going to be searching all over for the outsiders that did this. So what does Dario do, Alan?
He takes a giant stone and just bashes his head in repeatedly. That went on
Yeah,
way longer than I thought it would.
yeah. That's the show doesn't get very often to be funny when Tyrion's not around.
Yeah.
And I thought these two they play really well off of each other.
I'd like to
So
see
that
a buddy cop movie with them.
those two,
That'd be
yeah,
great.
they're the other
Uh,
guys.
but yeah, more in this episode, the more recent one. Big thing too is that we finally have two storylines converging again.
Hmm.
We see Sansa, Brienne, and Podrick finally get to Castle Black, which I'm
Yeah,
glad it didn't take forever for them to go on their way over there.
yeah,
Um, and so John and Sansa are reunited, and I'm guessing that John told her about the whole coming back to life thing, but she
yeah.
wasn't really like phased by it at all. It didn't seem like.
Well, she's seen some shit by now,
Yeah.
so I'm sure she's like, "Oh, my half brother back to life, cool." So, how are we gonna deal with this guy?
Yeah.
She's got other things, which is it's really cool because you've seen her go from the typical princess character who only wants to wear pretty dresses and sit at the court to someone that is more like her mother
Yes.
and is really a commanding figure. Um,
I
and
agree.
because it's they get a letter from Ramsay because at the end of last episode, the Umbers, which was a major house in the north, turned on the Starks, which that's what it seems everybody does,
Yep.
you know,
It's Game of Thrones. That's what
and
you do.
and handed Osha and Rickon
Yeah. We finally saw
over
Rickon
to
again.
him. Yeah, and
Um,
so earlier on in the episode, we see Osha going up to Ramsay
mhm.
to seduce him and basically kill him, but he ain't got time for that, and he gets her before he can get got.
Yeah.
Then writes this letter saying that he wants Sansa back. He has Rickon and 5,000 people. Although, do they know about like they have to know about the Umbers now, right? Because they who told Rickon to get to the Umbers? Because I remember that was brought up right that
Mm.
after the last episode we recorded was
Yeah.
that.
I don't remember.
But that was the game plan. So someone knew that's where they were going to be. So I think John and Sansa have their work cut out for them, but it's leading to the storyline I want to see.
Well, what's good is that Littlefinger shows back up in this episode,
Ah, that guy, fuck that guy.
and yeah,
Pardon the
he's.
language, but I don't like him.
I don't think you're supposed to.
Yeah,
That
okay, good.
he's like the real villain of the
Yeah,
show. Um, but he shows back up, and he's back at the Vale, and he's talking to the young. I guess he's a king of the Vale, prince of the
yeah.
Vale.
So he's the Lord. He's his dad was John Aaron. When the mom went through the moon
Right.
door, he's now
Yeah.
the Lord, little Lord of the veil of the Aerie.
Yeah,
Um,
and basically he's really easy to manipulate and
yeah.
everything, and the big takeaway is that Littlefinger's like, hey, we got to go help your cousin Sansa
Mm-hmm.
because she's in danger.
Because I sold her out quicker
Yeah,
than anything, and I am playing a game that and every time we see him now, because this is the first time we've seen him in a good while, like since at least
yeah,
halfway through last season when he delivered Sansa to Ramsay,
right.
and each time we see him, someone's coming on, getting on to him a little bit more.
Mhm.
Because we see that with, I'm going to look up the names. I don't want to get complained that we
Yeah,
don't know all the names. But Jan Royce, I think it's John, Jan, whatever. There's Yohn.
yeah,
Um, he's, I think he's part of like that council that schools Robin and how to be a lord.
right.
Um, but
And yeah,
yeah,
it was good seeing the manipulation take place with him, and it's just kind of like reminding you of how much of a shithead Littlefinger is, all that stuff. So
he's the
that
guy that stands back and has people beat you up, but doesn't lay a finger.
right,
And just like that's great for a villain, and it's great for the story. But deep down inside me, I want to end him myself. Like the dude sold up Ned, he sold up Sansa. He apparently loved Catelyn, but if he did, why is he doing all this bad stuff? You
yeah.
know.
I
So
think it's just a sign of a great villain,
I
honestly.
guess so.
If you hate him that much, he's a good
Yeah.
villain. Um, Also, another thing about Sansa and Brienne and Podrick being there,
Mhm.
Brienne mentions to is it Sir Davos?
Yeah. Davos
Sir,
and Melisandre
and
standing there.
Melisandre, that she's the one who killed
Stannis.
Stannis. Yeah, Stannis Baratheon. Um, and like the look on their faces was just priceless
Hmm.
because Davos was he was just like taken aback, completely stunned, and then
Yep.
she just turns and walks away. He's like, "Yeah, motherfucker, what?"
Yeah, I'm on to you too.
Yeah,
Um, and because Davos was asking what happened to Shireen,
yeah,
uh, and Brienne cut him off before they had to have that uncomfortable conversation.
right.
And so yeah, she does the cold shoulder walk away. Davos kind of knows, which I'm kind of glad we're getting this Justice League kind of deal up at the
Yeah,
wall
yeah.
with Brienne and Sansa and Jon and Davos. They're all
It's
the lesser thans that are coming together as a united
yeah,
front.
it's kind of like a motley crew over there.
Yeah.
You got all those guys, and then you got the wildlings too.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. That Tormund, that
yeah,
dude's that dude's
he's
awesome.
awesome. I love that guy. Um,
He's
but
an
yeah,
example
that's
of a good ginger. In case you're listening,
yeah,
Connor,
Connor.
be more like Tormund.
Another couple of things I want to mention too before we wrap up
Hmm.
here. Um, Tyrion meets with the slavers to kind of like broker a deal,
Yeah.
try to get things stopped with the Sons of the Harpy and all that. And he says that uh, he'll allow slavery to continue for 7 more years so that they can kind of like slowly come out of it.
Yeah.
Um, and that did not make a lot of people happy.
Oh,
Um,
it made no one happy.
yeah,
But that's a sign that it's a good idea in this world, I think.
yeah,
Is that everyone has to compromise and they'll stop backing the Sons of the Harpy. And then Marine will slowly be free, but Grey Worm and Missandei bring up a good point that, like, in the life of a slave, 7 years is everything,
yeah,
you know? So, is it that good of an idea? But, I mean, I think Tyrion knows what he's doing. He's
yeah.
far
I
enough.
agree. The thing that I find interesting about that is that he's basically coming up with all this stuff on his own, and I'm
Hmm.
going to be really interested to see what happens whenever Daenerys comes back.
I think she's like wants to be like the rest of us, be like, oh, I'm done with Marine. Like you
Yeah,
guys can have it. I have a horse army, so I'll see you later's.
that would be really interesting if she just can like
Yeah,
just says fuck it
yeah.
and she just decides to go across the sea and everything. Um, because then that would put Tyrion in a really really uncomfortable position.
Yes.
And that would be really interesting because then I think a lot of people would revolt against him, and he'd have to, I guess, hightail it out of there.
Yeah.
Really.
Him and
Um,
Varys, the whole thing. But then again, maybe not. She is now Daenerys is the most powerful person in this world.
yes.
Between the dragons, the Dothraki, Varys and Tyrion, the Unsullied, like
Yeah.
they're gonna be good to have when the White Walkers come a knocking. You're gonna want that, right?
Yeah. It's going to be really really interesting by the time we get to the end of the show because I imagine that something's going to happen between her and John. Maybe they'll team
Yeah,
up or something. Um, and that's going to be like what takes over King's Landing and all that stuff.
yeah,
Speaking of King's Landing, the last thing I
yep,
want to mention is all that stuff is kind of like coming to a head with the High Sparrow,
hmm,
um, because he's kind of like I guess thinks that he's ruling everyone now, but he's kind of like showing everyone he's like, oh no, I'm so humble and everything. He's talking to Tom in that way,
yeah.
and like he's just kind of slimy,
Yep, he showed
sadistic.
his true colors where I don't like he's managed to get all this power and you find out through his backstory that he tells to was it Marjorie that he
Yes,
tells us to that he was once a shoemaker and everyone loved his shoes and he wanted to use that to get to a higher place in life and then one day had a spiritual awakening when he wasn't happy and walked out of the house without his shoes and he's become the High Sparrow. But
right.
that just doesn't go away and now
Yeah,
he's been building a following ever since. So he understands where the true power is, and it's not money and fine clothes; it's people.
yeah. Um,
So,
I'm
and that's
I'm
dangerous.
I'm really interested to see if maybe he has another card up his sleeve because
Yep.
I guess what's going to happen in the next episode or maybe the one after that is
Hmm.
that the army from Highgarden is going to
Yep.
come and try and kill him.
Right.
Uh, but I would imagine that he's supposed to be a man of the people,
Right.
and they talk about a possible civil war happening and all that stuff. So I imagine that maybe all the citizens of King's Landing will revolt against uh, the king and all that stuff.
Yeah,
But
I don't see because Marjorie was a person of the people too. Like the people didn't like Cersei because that there was those rumors going around about her and her brother, but with Marjorie early on, we've seen even when she was with Joffrey that the people liked her and that she
yeah,
was kind of
and I think that's the
so
reason why he wants her because she was
mhm.
that kind of person. And
Yep.
he mentioned like whenever he finally took her to go see her brother, like
Hmm.
she was talking to her brother about how don't let them win and all this stuff, and he just kind of
Yep.
like has given up completely.
Yeah, because
Uh,
now he's got to go to Kunlun and plunge his fist in the heart.
I'm so ready for that.
Yeah, but that's how he comes back. He's gonna come back with a dope dragon tattoo and just wreak havoc.
He's gonna be the world's greatest martial artist. It's gonna be awesome.
Yes, but yeah,
Um,
but we got to see Cersei hatch her plan where she's gonna use the Tyrell's army to come in and do that. And I like that scene a lot because it shows that she's changed, that she's trying to make people more like her with
yeah,
this, vengeance that burns within her. And each appealed to the personal side of everyone in that council room because they each lost someone to the faith militant.
right.
So that was
And
a nice scene.
you can tell that she's still driven by vengeance.
Hmm.
But I think that she's kind of learned through her ordeal how
Yep.
to go about it the right way.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think she's a really, really good character. She's very complex.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I hate that I feel so bad for her just because
Yeah.
like I know how shitty she used to be.
Well, I felt the same about Jamie early when him and Brienne got together, and I ended up rooting for this guy that started the whole show by pushing a kid off a ledge
Yeah.
and banging his sister.
Yep.
So that just shows the power of the storytelling on this show.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
really good. I guess the only other minor thing to mention is that
Yeah.
Theon arrives back at the Iron Islands.
God, that guy.
Uh,
Uh,
and I mean, that's not really a whole lot, but he talks to
yeah.
his sister and he's like, "Hey, I want to help you
Yeah.
get
I'll help
take
you
a seat." So,
take Dad's throne. Yeah.
I'm interested in seeing like what their plan is
Hmm.
in relation to everyone else. But right now, it's just kind of like this side story that's happening there, one of many. Um,
Yeah.
but it's good to see that a lot of stories are kind of like emerging,
Yeah.
so that we actually have more time to spend. And I feel like we did spend more time on some of the stories in this one than we have in the
Hmm.
past.
Well, and that's good too because last season was really they were spinning their wheels
Yeah,
and just kind of in a holding pattern. And now that they're not in line with the books, they can push these stories forward
yeah,
for the betterment of the TV show, which is good. So we get the Jon Snow stuff, we get the Khaleesi stuff, um, and that's the main stuff. I'm interested in the King Smoot on the Iron Island just mainly because they're like Vikings. The
yeah,
Vikings are my jam. But other than that, I don't know how this impacts the story going forward. Like, I mean, if Yara wins, that's cool. But is she gonna back the North? Is she,
yeah. I would imagine that she would because of Theon,
yeah,
uh, and
against
his he
Ramsey?
has kind of like a devotion to Sansa now. So,
That's true.
um,
So I guess that's how it pulls. I didn't think about that. That is a good point. But yeah, it's the storytelling's getting more and more tight, and we're about there's 10 episodes a season, so we're almost
yeah.
at the halfway point, which I can't believe.
Yeah.
So
I kind of wish there was more episodes per season
yeah.
to kind of like smooth things out because it is such a big story.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'm down with it. I think it's been pretty good. I think it's been improving throughout the season so far. Hopefully, it keeps going that way.
It's good.
Yes? Is that me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Scotsman, you're needed.
Ah, music to my ears. Alright, that's this week's Game of Thrones review. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. We always like to hear. Like and subscribe and all that jazz. We'll see you next time, guys.